Good morning, everybody. Today is Friday, May 22nd, 2020. And I thought I would come on here and sing the Big Rock Candy Mountain with you because that is one of your favorite songs. And then I have a book to share with you. This class has loved the Big Rock Candy Mountain more than any other class, I think. You guys have really taken to this song. So let's sing it together. I'll tell you about a land I know. It's not so far from here. And every time you blink your eyes, the strangest things appear. Oh, the buzzing of the bees in the bubblegum trees and the soda water fountain. The lemonade springs where the bluebird sings in the Big Rock Candy Mountain. Oh, the Big Rock Candy Mountain is the perfect place for kids. Your allowance grows on bushes, and the cookie jars don't have lids. You can have your choice of any pet in the Big Rock Candy Zoo. There's a root beer lake you can dive into. You can paddle all around it in a big canoe in the Big Rock Candy Mountain. Oh, the buzzing of the bees in the bubblegum trees and the soda water fountain. The lemonade springs where the bluebird sings on the Big Rock Candy Mountain. In the Big Rock Candy Mountain, you never change your socks, and little streams of apple juice come a-bubbling down the rocks. There's no such thing as homework, it's your birthday all the time. You can stay up late and your folks don't care. You can come to lunch in your underwear in the Big Rock Candy Mountain. Oh, the buzzing of the bees in the bubblegum trees and the soda water fountain. The lemonade springs where the bluebird sings in the Big Rock Candy Mountain. Then I have one more that I want to sing with you. And this one, we have an elevator song. This one is the country song. So the elevator song is about the city. The country song is about, where do you think? The country. Let's see if I can remember it. Oh, the country is great, oh, the country is grand. There are not a lot of buildings and a whole lot of land. And we live way out by the forest and the trees. And we grow a lot of vegetables and maybe keep some bees. We're going to put the seeds in the earth and take the vegetables out. Put the seeds in the earth, take the vegetables out. Put the seeds in the earth, take the vegetables out. Put the seeds in the earth, take the vegetables out. Then we dance and shout. And actually, I think we're putting them in the ground. Oh, the country is great, oh, the country is grand. There are not a lot of buildings and a whole lot of land. And we live way out by the forest and the trees. We grow a lot of vegetables and maybe keep some bees. Put the seeds in the ground, take the vegetables out. Put the seeds in the ground, take the vegetables out. Put the seeds in the ground, take the vegetables out. Then we dance and shout. Oh, the country is great, oh, the country is grand. There are not a lot of people, not a lot of buildings and a whole lot of land. And we live way out by the forest and the trees. We grow a lot of vegetables and maybe keep some bees. Put the seeds in the ground, take the vegetables out. Put the seeds in the ground, take the vegetables out. Put the seeds in the ground, take the vegetables out. And we dance and shout. And when you do this, I sat down because, so you could see me on the camera, but you could put your seeds all the way down in the ground and then reach up to take your vegetables out. It's good up and down movement, just like our elevator song. Well, on Monday, we talked about being proud of who you are. And I found this book at school, A Bad Case of Stripes by David Shannon. This is a scholastic book, and it's one of our favorites. It's all about being yourself. Camilla Cream loved lima beans. But she never ate them. All her friends hated lima beans, and she wanted to fit in. Camilla was always worried about what other people thought of her. Today, she was fretting even more than usual. It was the first day of school, and she couldn't decide what to wear. There were so many people to impress. She tried on 42 outfits, but none seemed quite right. She put on a pretty red dress and looked in the mirror, and then she screamed. So she is just not... Her mother ran into the room and she screamed too. Oh my heavens, you're completely covered in stripes. Look at that. She's covered in stripes. So she's tried on 42 outfits and she can't figure out what she wants to wear because she wants to impress everybody. Is what we put on to impress other people, or should we wear what we want to wear? Wear what we want to wear. This was certainly true. Camilla was striped from head to toe. She looked like a rainbow. Mrs. Cream felt Camilla's forehead. Do you feel all right? She asked. I feel fine, Camilla answered, but just look at me. You get back in bed this instant, her mother ordered. You are not going to school today. Camilla was relieved. She didn't want to miss the first day of school, but she was afraid of what the other kids would say, and she had no idea what to wear with those crazy stripes. That afternoon, Dr. Bumble came to examine Camilla. Most extraordinary, he exclaimed. I've never seen anything like it. Are you coughing, sneezing, runny nose, aches, pains, chills, hot flashes, dizziness, drowsiness, shortness of breath, and uncontrollable twitching? No, Camilla told him. I feel fine. Well then, Dr. Bumble said, turning to Mrs. Cream, I don't see any reason why she shouldn't go to school tomorrow. Here's some ointment that should help clear up those stripes in a few days. If it doesn't, you know where to reach me. And off he went. So he gave her some cream. Do you think the cream is going to help those stripes? I don't think so. The next day was a disaster. Everyone at school laughed at Camilla. They called her Camilla Crayon and Night of the Living Lollipop. She tried her best to act as if everything were normal, but when the class said the Pledge of Allegiance, her stripes turned red, white, and blue, and she broke out in stars. The other kids thought this was great. One yelled, let's see some purple polka dots. Sure enough, Camilla turned all purple polka dotty. Someone else shouted, checkerboard, and a pattern of squares covered her skin. Soon everyone was calling out different shapes and colors, and poor Camilla was changing faster than you can change the channels on TV. Does she look like she's enjoying that? And the other kids are laughing at her. How do you think that makes her feel? So bad. That night, Mr. Harms, the school principal, called. I'm sorry, Mrs. Cream, he said. I'm going to have to ask you to keep Camilla home from school. She's just too much of a distraction, and I've been getting calls from the other parents. They're afraid those stripes may be contagious. Camilla was so embarrassed. She couldn't believe that 2 days ago everyone liked her. Now nobody wanted to be in the same room as her. Her father tried to make her feel better. Is there anything I can get you, sweetheart? He asked. No, thank you, sighed Camilla. What she really wanted was a nice plate of lima beans. But she had been laughed at enough for one day. If you want to eat lima beans, what should you do? Eat lima beans. Do you think it will hurt you to eat lima beans? No. Lima beans are healthy for you. Now, if all you wanted to do is eat ice cream, or cookies, or cake, or candy, could you do that? No, but there's nothing wrong with eating lima beans. Well, yes, I see, Dr. Bumble mumbled when Mr. Cream phoned the next day. I think I'd better bring in the specialists. We'll be right over. About an hour later, Dr. Bumble arrived with 4 people in long white coats. He introduced them to the Creams. This is Dr. Grop, Dr. Sponge, Dr. Cricket, and Dr. Young. Then the specialists went to work on Camilla. They squeezed and jabbed, tapped, and tested. It was very uncomfortable. Well, it's not the mumps, concluded Dr. Grop. Or the measles, said Dr. Sponge. Definitely not the chicken pox, put in Dr. Cricket. Or sunburn, said Dr. Young. Try these, said the specialist. They each handed her a bottle filled with different colored pills. Take one of each before bed, said Dr. Grop. Then they filed out the front door, followed by Dr. Bumble. So look at all those colors that she has on her. That night, Camilla took her medicine. It was awful. When she woke up the next morning, she did feel different. But when she got dressed, her clothes didn't fit right. She looked in the mirror, and there, staring back at her, was a giant, multicolored pill with her face on it. Oh my goodness, so all that medicine turned her into a giant medicine. Dr. Bumble rushed over as soon as Mrs. Cream called, but this time, instead of the specialists, he brought the experts. Dr. Gord and Mr. Mellon were the finest scientific minds in the land. Once again, Camilla was poked and prodded, looked at and listened to. The experts wrote down lots of numbers. They huddled together and whispered. Dr. Gord finally spoke. It might be a virus. He announced with authority. Suddenly, fuzzy little virus balls appeared all over Camilla. Or possibly some form of bacteria, Mr. Mellon. Out popped squiggly little bacteria tails. Or it could be a fungus, said Dr. Gord. Instantly, Camilla was covered with different colored fungus blotches. So they said virus, and virus popped out, and then bacteria, and then fungus, and none of it is right. The experts looked at Camilla, then looked at each other. We need to go over these numbers again back at the lab, Dr. Gord explained. We'll call you when we know something. But the experts didn't have a clue, much less a cure. Do you think you know what Camilla needs to do? Do you think she should be herself? I think that might help. By now, the TV news had found out about Camilla. Reports from every channel were outside her house, telling the story of the bizarre case of the incredible changing kid. Soon, a huge crowd was camped out on the front lawn. So they all want to see her. The creams were swamped with all kinds of remedies from psychologists, allergists, herbalists, nutritionists, psychics, an old medicine man, a guru, and even a veterinarian. Each so-called cure only added to poor Camilla's strange appearance until it was hard to even recognize her. She sprouted roots and berries and crystals and feathers and a long furry tail, but nothing worked. Oh my goodness. One day, a woman who called herself an environmental therapist claimed she could cure Camilla. Close your eyes, she said. Breathe deeply and become one with your room. I wish you hadn't said that, Camilla groaned. Slowly, she started to melt into the walls of her room. Her bed became her mouth. Her nose was a dresser. Her 2 paintings were her eyes. The therapist screamed and ran from the house. What are we going to do? Cried Mrs. Cream. It just keeps getting worse and worse. She began to sob. So look, she's got eyes, nose, and a mouth. At that moment, Mr. Cream heard a quiet little knock on the front door. He opened it, and there stood an old woman who was just as plump and sweet as a strawberry. Excuse me, she said brightly, but I think I can help. Should they let her help? She went into Camilla's room and looked around. My goodness, she said with a shake of her head. What we have here is a bad case of stripes, one of the worst I've ever seen. She pulled a container of small green beans from her bag. Here, she said, this might do the trick. Are those magic beans? Cried Mrs. Cream. Oh, my, no, replied the kind old woman. There's no such thing. These are just plain old lima beans. I bet you'd like some, wouldn't you? She said to Camilla. Camilla wanted a big, heaping plate full of lima beans more than just about anything. But she was still afraid to admit it. Yuck, she said. No one likes lima beans, especially me. Oh, dear, the old woman said sadly. I guess I was wrong about you. She put the beans back in her bag and started toward the door. Camilla watched the old woman walk away. Those beans would taste so good, and being laughed at for eating them was nothing compared to what she was going to. She finally couldn't stand it. Wait, she cried. The truth is, I really love lima beans. I thought so, the old woman said with a smile. She took the handful of beans and popped them into Camilla's mouth. Said Camilla. Suddenly, the branches, feathers, and squiggly tails began to disappear. Then the whole room swirled around. When it stopped, there stood Camilla, and everything was back to normal. I'm cured, she shouted. Yes, said the old woman. I knew the real you was in there somewhere. She patted Camilla on the head, and then she went outside and vanished into the crowd. afterward, Camilla wasn't quite the same. Some of the kids at school said she was weird, but she didn't care a bit. She ate all the lima beans she wanted, and she never had even a touch of Stripes again. Who do you need to be? You just need to be yourself. It doesn't matter what you wear, what you look like, how long your hair is. My hair's looking a little longer than I want it. What other people say, you just have to do what you want to do and be yourself, as long as it's safe and respectful. So we can learn a lot from a bad case of Stripes. Goodbye, goodbye to you and you and you. Goodbye, goodbye, we're so glad you are you. See you later, bye.